So, for the month of April, I think I'm going to do a bit of just like a question answer format, like one question every single video, and I think they're all going to have to be my takes on spirituality. The reason why is that it's still something that I feel nervous talking about, spirituality. It's still something that I don't know if I should even be bringing up, for the reason that A, makes me sound as pretentious as can be, and B, that I don't consider myself pretty far along on the spiritual awakening spectrum, if there is one of those. There's a book called 1000 by Ramaji that's giving examples of what you look like at various phases of spiritual awakening. And it's not a perfect, concrete, this is the way that it goes when you're awakening. I think one thing that you learn by reading a lot of spiritual texts is that there are a lot of different paths to awakening, and they all look very, very different. But it is a helpful perspective, and I just feel, I don't want to give myself a number, but I feel like I'm very low on this spectrum from reading some of that. I've learned to really just err on the side of undervaluing myself in the spiritual realm, because it's like, you always have further that you can go. You will always have farther that you can go for the rest of your life. So, the question that I'm going to start with today, to just really kick it into gear, this is a month of pretension, and this is a month of a guy who doesn't really know what he's talking about, giving his take on spirituality. What does spirituality mean to me? Just like, what does it mean? What does that word even mean? I feel like it is such a watered down, overused word, being a spiritual person. I almost, when I hear it now, I want to go, elongate the vowels. I'm a spiritual person. Because it can just be that annoying. And I think of myself a few years ago and how annoying I could be in that regard. And oh my gosh, when I started off on this spiritual path, you can call it, back in probably 2018, my goodness. I didn't know what I was talking about, but it felt like I knew the entire world. And I think that's how I can define spirituality. One's understanding of the way things are at a level that is beyond what we can automatically perceive. We all have a fundamental question of where we come from. And I think spirituality, more than anything, is just an intrigue, like an impetus to figure out that answer. And it's not just where we came from, it's like fundamentally what we are. Just what is the actual nature of things. It's a question that I feel like just about nobody knows. Or if there are people who know it, it's like, I don't know that they do. Spirituality is, unfortunately, pretty much a solo trip. You can have people help you along the way. You can find gurus and mentors and stuff. And you can have spiritual groups, that sort of reinforce your own personal practice. But it is a personal practice at the end of all of it. Somebody else cannot give you their level of spirituality. You have to make your own realizations for yourself. And that applies to stuff beyond what we'd call spirituality. That applies to what most spiritual people would call the materialistic realm. The stuff that's automatically in front of you and obvious. You have to figure things out for yourself. And by all means, you can learn. You can go to all the teachers and books and stuff that you want, and it will always just come down to your own basic fundamental understanding and perception. I feel like that's not a good, concise answer because it is so complicated. I mean, it's sort of like asking what science is. And I feel like you'd get similar answers if you're asking what that is. like science versus spirituality, I feel like both of them can be summarized in the practice of understanding the way of things. I think that where I'd say spirituality is that it is a practice of understanding at a deep, fundamental level that is beyond the thinking. And I think all the scientists would scoff at that because they'd be like, if it's not you thinking, then how do you know? And it's just because the scientists are mind-oriented people. And there's nothing wrong with that. One thing that I've also learned is that spirituality is not like a points system. It's not your value. If there's anything that you learn after reading a lot of spirituality also, it's that it doesn't increase your value at all. Value itself becomes kind of an irrelevant, imaginary, arbitrary system. It's just the way things are. Spirituality, I think, is a constant strive for truth, whatever that means.